My name is Éanna Rowe and I'm the Director of Operations with Waterways Ireland. We're the navigation authority for the island of Ireland, north and south, both Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. And it's my pleasure, and I want to really thank the members and committee of Inland Waterway International for inviting me here to talk to you today about something that's very close to my heart, and that's the collaboration and partnership approach that we take to the management, maintenance, development, and indeed restoration of our inland waterways on this island. I have about 30 slides that I want to present, and I'm really looking forward to the questions and answer session at the end. So if it's okay, I will jump straight into the slides and into the presentation, and then we'll take any questions at the very end of the presentation. So without further ado, here we go. As I said, Waterways Ireland is one of 6 north-south bodies established under the Belfast or Good Friday Agreement. It was part of the peace process on this island, and we were established in 1999, and our responsibility or our remit is to manage, maintain, develop and restore the inland navigable waterways, principally for recreational purposes. And you'll see the recreational aspect of the use of the inland navigations throughout this presentation. Currently under our remit on the island, we have 7 inland navigations: canals, rivers and lakes. So we have the Royal Canal and Grand Canal and Barrow navigation, primarily canals with a small river section on the Barrow. We have the mighty Shannon, as we call it, the longest river in Great Britain and Ireland, with its lakes and river sections. We have the Shannon-Erne Waterway, which was restored as a cross-border project pre the peace agreement. We have the Erne system, which is the upper and lower Lough Erne, and we have the lower band navigation. And as some of you are probably aware, we are currently restoring the Ulster Canal, a huge project for us. It's been abandoned for more than 100 years, and we're restoring it over a number of phases. And I'm delighted to say that phase 3 of its restoration, which will see Clonus linked back to the Erne, is progressing and will be completed by 2028. So then when I come to my presentation today, if I could get this to move, which would be great. So what's our purpose? Well, we're the custodians of these inland navigations, and you'll see the word collaboration and reimagination throughout the presentation. And that's really what we're about, is to work with others to reimagine, maintain and develop the waterways to sustain the communities and environment and indeed the heritage. Our vision is around creating inspirational inland navigation and waterway experiences through the conservation and sustainable development of those waterways. And as our key values, we are passionate about what we do. We work collaboratively. We have to be accountable. We're accountable to the public and to the public purse and to both governments, north and south. And we strive to be innovative and to continuously improve what we do and how we do it. So when it comes to collaboration, as we call it, our secret sauce, it's about building relationships with others. It's about taking a whole of Ireland, a whole of government, a whole of sector approach. It's about bringing joined up thinking, because there are more agencies involved than just Waterways Ireland in the management of these navigations, and indeed in how we want to contribute to the public good. The bane of my life, we want to avoid duplication so that we get better bang for our buck and better returns and better outcomes. And finally, we also want to leverage resources. So by working with others, we can share information, we can share knowledge, we can share experiences, and we can also pool our resources together. And I'm delighted to say that we have really close working relationships with many of the members of the Inland Waterway International Association, and indeed with our partner agencies, Scottish Canals, Canals and River Trust, and others. And that kind of joined up thinking is really, really crucial. Then when I look at projects and partnership projects, and I'm not going to go through all of these projects, I'm going to give you one big case study, but practically everything we do is in partnership with others. So some of the current projects that are in train in our capital in Dublin, we have a master plan for the Docklands area, which includes the big water bodies. And at one stage, the Grand Canal dock in Dublin was the largest inland dock in Europe. It's no longer so, as others copied and built bigger, but it is a really key area for the development of Dublin City and in the development of the waterways. We also have significant ongoing works at Boland's Mill Boardwalk with Google, who have their European headquarters based in 3 buildings in that area, and we're working hand in glove with Google. So again, a different kind of partnership. We're currently also restoring the Camden locks, the big sea locks that come into Grand Canal dock. And we're working with our partners on the heritage side, because these are heritage structures. And again, with Dublin Port, who manage the Liffey and the tidal elements of the port where it meets these locks. We're working hand in glove with our colleagues in the council, and indeed with our colleagues who are in charge of our wastewater. They're called Uisce Éireann, on a Grand Canal outflow extension, because currently the outflow is in the basin. We're doing a huge amount of work around public realm and the improvement of the public realm with our colleagues in the local authorities, not only in Dublin, but in other areas. And crucially, we're also working hand in glove with government agencies and local authorities in finishing out our metro greenways. We recently, as 2 years ago, we brought to market Ireland's longest greenway, 130 kilometres in length, which runs the length of the Royal Canal, where it meets the Shannon and brings it into Dublin. And we're currently working on the Grand Canal Greenway, the Barrow Greenway, and indeed on a greenway along the Shannon. So greenways are becoming a big area of development for us in Waterways Ireland, but we're doing them in partnership, as I said. Other kind of projects that we're working on would be the glamping, motorhome and EV charging infrastructure. So we have a lot of property assets along our navigations, and we're looking to see from a recreational and a tourism perspective how they can be better utilised. We have a thing called the Shannon Tourism Master Plan, which I'll go into a lot more detail, and it's the case study I'll be talking about in a couple of minutes. We have the transformation of our harbour in Tullamore in the centre of Ireland, and how we're moving our depot out of it to be able to open up that harbour for redevelopment. And this is being done in conjunction with the local authority, with our boat community, and indeed with the local communities. Then we're doing this in partnership with other state agencies and other local authorities, and ensuring that we get that bang for our buck that I was talking about earlier in relation to how we might share facilities, share resources, and share usages. And we're currently working with colleagues in 5 different local authorities about that very operating model, where we would share those kind of facilities for our depots. The redevelopment of Connaught Harbour on the Shannon is another key project, which I will talk about in a second, as well as part of the Shannon Master Plan. But again, it's how we are reimagining this space with colleagues in other agencies, and most particularly with our colleagues in the boat rental sector, and indeed with in the Inland Waterways Association of Ireland, and how we would redevelop this area. A lot of work is going on in relation to weir and lock refurbishments, and you might say, well, that's our bread and butter. They're our key resources that keep our key assets that keep the navigation operating. But we're also looking to transform them to be more than just a lock or a weir, and I'll get to that in a second also. I previously mentioned the Grand Canal Greenway, which will be 110 kilometres in length to mirror the Royal Canal Greenway that we have opened. And then on the asset management side, we're working hand in glove with other partners in other agencies, both in Ireland and in the UK, to share those experiences, best practice, etc., because we are responsible for over €1 billion worth of assets, and in how we manage those assets and protect them for future generations is crucial to the work that we do in Waterways Ireland. On the softer side of things, we've a lot of partnerships around marketing and brand engagement, around our visitor monitoring to know who our visitors are, the kind of consumer insights, information that's required, where they're coming from, how long they're staying, all of that good work. And we're doing that in partnership with other agencies on the island of Ireland. We're also working on a number of what are known in Ireland and elsewhere as DEDPs, they're Destination Experience Development Plans. And we're delivering these in partnership with the tourism bodies, with the local authorities, with the tourism operators, and indeed with the local communities. Our water management strategy, which we've just finalized, is one that was done in tandem with other agencies, because as I said at the outset, our partnership is crucial to the management of water, because we're not the only agency's responsibility for the water in some of these navigations. Our climate action plan is all built around partnership, and indeed we were the first agency in Ireland to draft, agree and publish a climate action plan. And our climate action plan is now in its third year of implementation. And finally, as another example on the softer side of product development, is our heritage and biodiversity action plan, which again we're doing in partnership with all of the other relevant agencies, and it's a bottom-up approach to protection of the heritage and our biodiversity. So at this stage, I'm going to move into a lot more granular detail in relation to a key partnership that we've developed, and with the result of having a tourism master plan now in place for both the Shannon navigation and the Shannon Erne waterway. So it covers about 380 kilometers of our navigation, which is 1,000 kilometers in total. And the context for this partnership was that the Shannon is a key pillar of the Hidden Heartlands tourism brand that our colleagues in the Tourism Authority put in the shop window internationally and nationally. So when you're looking at a destination, the destination is Ireland, and underneath that destination there are 4 key brands, one of which is Ireland's Hidden Heartlands. We're looking as well and trying to meet the increased consumer and visitor demand that we have experienced in the last number of years to the Shannon and to the Shannon Erne waterway. So they're the center spine of our waterways. And we also want to deliver on international and national trends. One of the key things about waterways in general, and about our waterways in Ireland in particular, is the unspoilt environmental hinterland that surrounds these waterways. And it's a key offering, and it's a key demand for both national and international tourists. It's a way of getting away from it all, immersing yourself in the environment and in nature, and I suppose seeing the island from a different perspective, seeing it from the inside out, if you like. The purpose and aim of the master plan was to develop a framework of scale that was built around sustainable tourism development. We do not want to kill the goose that's laying the golden egg, and that is the environment in which the Shannon and Shannon Erne flow through. We were looking to deliver on regional spread of visitors right across the spine of the Shannon and Shannon Erne, and we're also looking to, I suppose, the economic and social potential of these natural assets, of the lakes, of the rivers, of the canalised sections, and indeed of the wider hinterland. So the formulation of the master plan was done in partnership, and we adopted the best practice, the international model, the VICE model, where the visitor, the industry, the community, and the environment were at the center of the thinking in how we would formulate and develop the plan. So as I said, one of the key pillars of the plan was the Hidden Heartlands brand. We were looking for broader use of the navigation. As you can see there, it covers quite a large area of the island of Ireland. And also we were looking to adopt the best practice model. And as you can see on the map on the right there, it's not just the Shannon, its lakes and the canalized sections, but it's also the mountains and hills on either side. It's the Callows area through the Midlands. It's the peatlands and peatways area as well, stretching out to both sides around Lough Ree. And the Just Transition Programme, the European Just Transition Programme, is a critical element of this. We have Lough Ree and its islands, and again then we have Lough Key, the upper Lough Erne area, and indeed the Shannon uplands, where the source of the Shannon is found at the Shannon Pot. So it's not just about the water, but the water is the central element. So the objective of the master plan was to reposition the waterways as a destination of international scale and singularity at the center of our tourism proposition in Ireland. So what we sought to do was to identify and deliver a coordinated strategy and proposal that would reposition it, identifying world-class experiences, establishing a framework for its sustainable development, defining what was unique about the tourism offering, formulating the destination vision, establishing key themes, and also identifying how we'd bring those themes to life through the strategic initiatives and to realize the actual offering. So as I said, it was done in partnership, and it was a very broad partnership. So at the center of it was ourselves in Waterways Ireland. We led the project. Our colleagues in Fáilte Ireland, the Tourism Authority of Ireland, were heavily involved, as were the 10 local authorities from County Cavan in the top right down to Limerick City and County at the bottom of the Shannon. We also had other state agencies involved in the formulation. We had our Cuillte, who manage our forestry. We had Bord na Móna, who manage our peatlands. We had the National Parks and Wildlife Service from the environmental perspective. We had the National Monuments and Historic Properties Service, who manage a lot of the historic properties in the area, and others. On the industry side of things, and remember the VICE model, where the visitor, the industry, the communities, and the environment are critical. On the industry, we had our representatives from the cruise hire sector, obviously, from the boating sector through the IWI, through the hotels, federations, etc., etc. And then finally, we also had our community groups. And the communities were a key driver in the formulation, where we met every single community in the 380-kilometre stretch of waterway, both sides of the navigation, and got really good buy-in and feedback from the community sector in how we would deliver and develop this plan. So the formulation of the Tourism Master Plan was the first time there was ever a unitary plan of any type for both the Shannon and Shannon Erne waterway. We brought together a myriad of different strategies and took the best bits out of them all. We did a destination and product audit of all of the product that was along the Shannon and the Shannon Erne. We had a huge amount of consultation, undertook a full strategic environmental assessment, and we published the plan in March of 2021. So it's relatively new. I should say it's a 10-year plan that's modelled on our own Waterways Ireland 10-year corporate ambition, which we are just bringing to market at the minute. So at the heart of it is the destination vision. So we want the Shannon and Shannon Erne to become Ireland's surprising heart, where the special environmental qualities and the biodiversity are valued by locals and visitors alike. It should be a haven for on-water and off-water experiences with a wide range of ways for the visitor to get active in nature. The Shannon and Shannon Erne will invite the visitor to slow down, to stay longer, and to engage, not only with the heritage, but also with the communities. So that's the vision at the centre of what we delivered as a collective across the strands, whether it's community, industry, or indeed our partners in tourism and in the local authorities. So when we look then from the vision to the thematic experience, we had three key themes that we built around the Shannon and Shannon Erne. One was around the myth and the legend around it being the mighty river of Ireland, all of the fables and legends that go with that, whether it's the salmon and knowledge, or it's Cuchulainn, or it's the Fianna, or all of that, plus the fact that it is the longest river in Great Britain and Ireland, and is unique in that way. We also then have a second key theme, which is around the natural, timeless Shannon. It's been there forever. The Shannon was our motorway before we had cars, when we think about it. It was how people explored this country and experienced this country millennia ago. And also then the final theme is around the Shannon journeys and adventures. So navigation is at the center of these journeys and adventures. And then the recreational products that we have been delivering over the last 10 or so years through blueways, through different types of on-water activities or off-water activities, are a crucial theme. So these themes, the three themes, can be applied to a range of contexts and geographies right across the Shannon and Shannon Erne waterways, but they're the basis for all of the experiences. So when we then look to the implementation piece, we were looking at 7 key initiatives that we wanted to deliver. So first and foremost is the enhancement of the on-water experience, the navigation itself. The second one is around the enhancement of the waterside experience. So when I step off my boat or I arrive by car to an area, what do I meet at the water's edge? So that's a crucial piece as well. The third one is the enhancement and development of the Shannon towns, villages, and indeed cities. So it's how they become truly waterside and waterway towns and villages. We also want to enhance and protect the Shannon environment. And if we remember the Vice model, the environment is at the center of this. We need to improve connectivity. In Ireland, all our infrastructure in relation to roads and rail runs from east to west and west to east. And we want to change that connectivity to pull it out to a north-south connectivity that runs up the spine of the Shannon and the Shannon Erne. We also want to build enterprise and community networks and build on the existing ones as well that are there. And finally, it's around the communication of a clear and consistent message, both nationally and internationally, about the Shannon Erne, the navigation and its possibilities. So if I think about it, when we look to the implementation, I can put it into 3 key areas. We want to transform the navigation, whether it's transforming the recreational aspect of it, whether it's transforming the tourism benefits and the tourism amenity that is the Shannon and Shannon Erne, and also then transform the assets for community amenities. If it's good for the tourist, it's good for the community, and vice versa. In developing the assets, we've done a huge amount of work in the last 2 years around developments. I'll show you a slide in a few seconds around Meelick Weir and Walkway, but we put in new moorings in places like Ballymahan in Longford, in Athlone, which is in the centre of the Shannon, in Rooskey to the north, and in Portumna to the south. We've done a huge amount of blueway development. We're bringing to market new canoe trails in Lough Ree, which we hope will get blueway accreditation in the next while. We have the Shannon Blueway, which is continuing to be developed on the North Shannon area. We have just received the accreditation, the international accreditation for the Loughdern Blueway, 180 kilometres of canoe trails and associated product offerings on land. And we are currently developing a series of canoe trails from Limerick back up to O'Brien's Bridge. So that's at the bottom end. Similarly, when it comes to the Greenway development, the proposal to bring a route from Dublin on the east coast to Galway on the west is going to take a journey down along the spine of the mid-Shannon. So from Athlone down to Portumna and back up then again through countryside into Galway City. At the same time, we in Waterways Ireland are developing a greenway from Limerick down in the very south at the bottom of the Shannon up to Scariff, which will join in with the Dublin-Galway route. So we will be connecting greenway from Dublin City to Galway City to Limerick City. And then we're also working on, north of Athlone, working on connecting the Royal Canal Greenway at its terminus with the Shannon in Clondra to the Grand Canal Greenway at its terminus in Shannon Harbour. So a lot of development of the assets is currently being undertaken. When it comes to protecting the environment, some of the key things that we have either completed or are at the minute include detailed piece of work with our colleagues in inland fisheries and the national parks around biosecurity measures and invasive species. So we have developed a code of conduct and indeed some interventions, particularly where small boats and small vessels are being taken in and out of the navigations to help stop the spread of invasive species and to educate vessel owners, kayak owners, etc., on what they need to do to protect the fragile environment that we have. Secondly, we're working hand in glove with our colleagues in the cruise hire sector on the greening of the cruise hire fleet. We're looking at alternative fuels and methods of propulsion for the cruise hire fleet. And again, it's one that we would look to bring in across all boats. We have 9,500 boats on the Shannon and Shannon Erne systems at the minute. And what we'd look to do is if we can crack the nut in relation to the cruise hire fleet, then we would look to expand that out across all sectors and all users of boats on the Shannon and Shannon Erne, and indeed on all our waterways. Another key area that we're working on with our colleagues in the National Parks and Wildlife Service is a UNESCO biosphere designation for Lough Ree. That's the lake in the middle of the Shannon, because it is a really sensitive site from the perspective of birds and the Natura 2000 sites that are along it and special protection areas. And working with our colleagues in the National Parks and Wildlife Service, we have just started the process of scoping out whether or not a UNESCO biosphere designation would be appropriate for it. And then the final element around the environment, and it's one that has just been announced by Europe and by government here, is our just transition and the rewilding of the bogs in Ireland. So for my international colleagues, our state authority called Board Namona, which managed our peatlands, has ceased peat production. It is no longer using peat as a fossil fuel for our generation of electricity. And the land that they own, which is considerable, is currently being looked at from a rewilding perspective, a rewatering perspective, but more importantly, there is an economic stimulus announced by the European Union and by the Irish government into how we can reorientate the industrial capability and the economic capability of these areas. And one of the key things that has come out of that reorientation is how we could use those assets from a tourism perspective. So there's a huge amount happening in the state sector and at European level in relation to just transition. And indeed, our colleagues in Fáilte Ireland are leading on the tourism element, which we are playing our part in also. So again, back to collaboration and partnership. And finally, then, in relation to the third element, if you like, is around how we showcase our beautiful waterways, both domestically and internationally. So we've established structures with our colleagues in both Tourism Ireland, who market Ireland abroad, and with our colleagues in Fáilte Ireland, who market it domestically, and they're the Tourism Development Authority for the Republic. We've built a huge amount of content collectively with them, undertaken both national and international campaigns, trying to attract tourists to the Shannon and Shannon Erne areas. There's been a web development program for the industry in how they can align their product to the proposition. The Discover Ireland profile, which is the international website for tourism in Ireland, has a very strong area around the Shannon and Shannon Erne now. And also there have been business supports provided through the National Tourism Authority to businesses to help them make the most of the opportunities that the Shannon and the Shannon Erne provide. And finally, we're working on a project called the Signature Discovery Points, which would be areas of key interest off the beaten track, where we want to showcase what's best about the Shannon, Erne, its rivers, lakes and canals. There are a range of other projects and initiatives also happening, not necessarily led by Waterways Ireland. So Ordna Prussia, which was a dam built by the new state in Ireland in 1928, using 1/3 of our GDP at the time to harness the potential of the Shannon for electrical production. It'll be 100 years old in another 5 years. And there is a proposal to develop it as an international visitor experience. And that's being led out by our colleagues in the ESB, who manage electricity production. Inishcaltra is an island on Lough Derg, which is a very special place, and I have a separate slide on it in a second, where we, with our colleagues in the local authority and the National Monument Service, are looking to see how we can open it up as an international visitor attraction as well. Portumna Castle and Gardens is currently being developed by our colleagues in the Office of Public Works, a Norman castle built back in the late 1400s on the shores of the Shannon, and a huge potential again from a tourism perspective. Clonmacnoise, some of you may have heard of Clonmacnoise before, but again, our colleagues in the Office of Public Works are leading out on a reimagining of the visitor experience there. It's an old early Christian settlement with round towers, churches, etc., and again on the shores of Lough Ree, with direct access to the Shannon. We've the Shannon Crossing in Athlone, and indeed we've a Shannon Crossing as well going in Killaloe, and these are new bridges going over the Shannon. And again, it's how we utilize that infrastructure to showcase what's best about the navigation. Centre Parks has established itself in Longford, in Ballymahon, and is currently being expanded. And again, it's a big boost to tourism in that general area, and again directly linked to the Shannon and indeed to the Royal Canal. Strokestown House and Famine Museum, and this is a really crucial tourism offering that has been developed in the last 3 years, where there is a famine walk that mirrors the walk taken by Irish people during the Great Hunger from Strokestown House all the way up the Royal Canal to Dublin to take the famine ships to either America or to Australia or to the UK. Very sad journey, but one that we are currently working with our colleagues in the local authorities and indeed the owners of Strokestown House to develop. We have ongoing development of blueways right across our navigations, but in particular on our waterways. And finally, another project, as I mentioned already, that we're developing is our motorhomes, glamping and electric vehicle sites. And again, we would hope to roll it out in partnership with our colleagues, particularly in the local authority sector, over the coming years. I mentioned Portumna, and again, At a strategic level, everything we do is around partnership, and also at a project level. So in Portumna, you can see here, this is where Portumna Harbour meets the Shannon, if you like. We took a multi-agency approach here because behind us, although it's not in the picture, the OPW own and run the castle, the normal castle. And to the right, and again, it's not in the picture, our colleagues in Quilta own and manage the third largest forest park in Ireland. So working with both OPW and Quilta, and indeed with our colleagues in the Workhouse Museum, which again is connected to the famine, where workhouses were built to house those that were destitute, we have come up with a plan for the redevelopment of Portumna in its totality, and we are delivering on certain elements of that as a lead agency. So we've redeveloped this harbour here to increase the number of boats that can be accommodated, and also we put in an RV park that caters for 18 recreational vehicles adjacent to it. At the same time, we are redeveloping Connacht Harbour, which is down the opposite side of the town. The council are redeveloping the town itself. OPW are investing in the castle, and Quilta are now starting a master plan for turning the forest park from one that the premise was around the production of timber to one where it's around the recreational value and asset that is the forest. So as you could see, together, Portumna will become a mecca and a hub from a tourism and a recreational perspective, all built on the fact that it's on the top of Lough Derg, on the navigation, and built on the assets that it has available to it. Meelick Weir and Walkway, it's a key weir that was severely damaged by the floods in 2009, and again was completely washed away in 2019. And as I said earlier, this is a key asset for us in how we manage our navigation, but we wanted to reimagine the weir and how it could be used. So in restoring the weir, and indeed the sluice barrage and the tilting weir boards on it, we built a walkway on top of it with our colleagues in the local authorities, two local authorities, one because it straddles two counties, and we built a walkway on top of the weir, and we had 100,000 visitors over an 18-month period to just walk over the weir. So again, it's how we reimagine and repurpose our assets, but do it in partnership. I mentioned Inishcaltra and Holy Island. Again, you can see from the photo here, it's an island on Lough Derg, down at the bottom of the Shannon system. Again, we have multiple agencies working together to develop and create a visitor experience on the island. And, it's from our perspective in Waterways, we're looking to develop boating facilities that would allow safe access to and from the island. And at the same time, our colleagues in the council are looking to develop a visitor centre and have made huge strides on it on the mainland, where you would get an understanding of what this unique heritage offering on the island has to offer. The natural environment is crucial here. We have sea eagles recently reintroduced to Lough Derg on this part of the navigation, and indeed have a number of hatchlings or fledglings just in the last number of weeks. So a really successful reintroduction of the sea eagles. And from a national monuments perspective, these are national monuments: the Round Tower, the church, there's 3 churches, and indeed the other monastic elements to the site are really, really important. So again, it's about working in partnership with others to see how we can collectively deliver on the ambition that is placing the Shannon and Shannon Erne at the centre of Ireland's hidden heartlands. As we say in Ireland, Míle buíochas, that means thank you very, very much for your time. I hope you enjoyed my presentation. Again, I'd like to thank our colleagues in the Inland Waterways International for the kind offer to come and present to you today on what is something really close to my heart, and one that has allowed us in Waterways Ireland to achieve more than we could if we didn't get into partnership with others. So many thanks, and I'll stop presenting now.